You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Monday. We are back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Consider this our spring game post game. I am sorry that it did not happen the day of the game. I really thought that I was going to get done with, I don't know what I was thinking. The game's at 3. Figured I'd leave at 7. I'd come home. I'd be done with writing until, I didn't even write. I just did photos. I thought I'd be done by like 8:30. No, it was like midnight. So anyway, we were going to talk spring game here. I want to see. I don't know if I can look up the stats here. I think I can. I actually haven't seen the stats for the spring game. It doesn't look like I can here. We're trying to figure that out. But being on the field, of course, I didn't get to see the stats, but we are going to get to it as best we can. And we're going to discuss what went well, what maybe didn't. All right, I got it. I found it. I had to do it in a kind of circuitous way. There are certain things that obviously looked really, really good. The bulk of the defense, some aspects of the offense, mostly a couple individual players looked really good. It was very cold if you were there. I did not dress appropriately. C'est la vie. But spring football is in the books. Last Michigan football vestige of anything until we get to, aside from maybe, transfers in or out and recruiting. And then we got the actual satellite camps coming up. Or not satellite camps, this trip, which is set to start at least at the end of the month. But the Mays team won in come from behind fashion, 22-21. Thanks to really amazing work from Leon Franklin initially, and then finishing it out, Davis Warren to Peyton O'Leary. Peyton O'Leary was certainly the player of the game. He was one of the two people that met with the media in the immediate aftermath. It was him and Trevor Keegan. But he had 200 and something yards here receiving. Well, it says 126 here, so I guess maybe it wasn't 200 and something. I saw something that said 200 something, and that seemed like a lot, but still, he had 126 yards. I mean, that's pretty amazing in and of itself. But remember what I told you, I believe it was last week, might have been the week before. Don't get too high necessarily on the non-contributors, right? We do this every year. It's not anything against Peyton O'Leary, but think back to Nate Shanley. He didn't have quite this performance, but he had 4 catches, and they were all like big ones in 2017. And not everyone, but certainly it was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe this walk-on can do something. Peyton O'Leary, a walk-on who is now on scholarship. Pay more attention to those that you know are going to contribute, for sure. Peyton O'Leary very well might have worked his way into that, and he was certainly a dependable target for Davis Warren and J.J. McCarthy. But I don't want to sit here and say, all right, yes, he is the star. He is going to go forward. Everyone's going to be enthusiastic about what he does going forward. Pay attention to the ones that you know are going to contribute. Like Matthew Ibner, 2 catches for 62 yards. He had a 51-yard catch. He would be one where I would sit there and say, like, yeah, maybe pay attention to him because he's probably in his 4th year going to contribute. That's where I would kind of start to look at it. Conversely, as far as the running backs are concerned, on the other end, Benjamin Hall is one that I obviously am very much thinking was going to contribute. Like, if you listen to the show, watch the show, anything the last couple weeks, you know that I've been talking about Benjamin Hall, and he went out and showed you why. 13 carries, 102 yards. Long being 31 yards. Kalel Mullings had 9 carries for 37 yards, got bottled up at the line of scrimmage a couple times, but I thought he made some, especially that 18-yarder that he had. I thought he showed you a little extra wiggle that he didn't have last year. Ball security worked out well for him. Didn't work out well for everybody. There were lots of turnovers in general in this game, somewhat to be expected. JJ McCarthy got bailed out by one getting turned back. I'm sure he's very happy about that because I don't know where he was throwing. But nonetheless, I think that the Benjamin Hall, Kalel Mullings, they're going to be in that rotation. I'm a little disappointed that Tavier Dunlap, 6 carries for 21 yards. Didn't really do much of anything. Isaiah Gash, 2 carries for 10 yards. He's on scholarship now. He didn't do much of anything. Alex Orji and Jack Tuttle looked really good when they were scrambling. Jack Tuttle, I thought, showed you a lot. I thought that he looked pretty good. Now, his stat line said 50%, but it felt like, hey, play breaks down, I'm going to go do something. He felt exciting, which is not something that you could have said while watching him at Indiana. Change of scenery sometimes does people good. Seems to be the case for him. So that was encouraging. A couple other encouraging performances include Frederick Moore, had 62 yards on 4 catches. AJ Barner got a touchdown. He let you know real quick, that he was going to be a factor and a force. So that's good. I think it's more so the guys that come out and make those plays that you know are, like I said, are going to contribute. Peyton O'Leary might be that, but don't get too high too fast on him. He's been the talk of spring ball outside of Benjamin Hall, but it's still hey man, you just gotta just wait a minute, hold up. Let's see how that goes, because there's a lot of guys out there that we saw a little bit of Cornelius Johnson. We saw a little bit of Darius Clemens. We didn't see any Tyler Morris. He wasn't dressed. We didn't see any Roman Wilson wasn't dressed. So, yeah, he might be a factor, but you really only had one other guy, Cornelius Johnson, and he wasn't out there for that long. Darius Clemens kind of didn't show much. That's disappointing. Didn't really see much from Samaj Morgan. One target, 0 on the chart there. Colston Loveland, 1 catch, 14 yards. This is more about the guys that are going to come out, be a part of the rotation, and be able to do some things. And I thought we saw a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball. And then I have some overarching thoughts as this connects. We'll get to that here in a moment. Before we do that, the Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now it's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the Coconut Brownie Chunk Bar. And if you want, I would say, they want me to say, if you want Michigan to win, I mean, they weren't even in the tournament. But if you do want them to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built's the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing. You won't think they're good for you. I can attest to that. I've bought several. We're talking dozens upon dozens of boxes of my own volition with my own money. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? Well, for starters, they're all high in protein, low in sugar, and covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, and it's not March anymore, but give it a shot. So hop in and support your pick. I have a puppy who's very tentatively kind of standing underneath me, wanting all the attention because I have not been home all day, as any regular watcher or listener knows that I'm moving on Wednesday. The plan for Tuesday is to do Wednesday's episode on Tuesday night, along with Tuesday's episode. Whatever that ends up being, I'm not sure yet. We're kind of in the off season to some degree. because I'm going to be doing the moving. But that means that I went to Ann Arbor today and got a load of stuff and brought it back. I had to go pick up some things that I got off of Facebook Marketplace. That was more in the Sterling Heights area. Thankfully, both of them were in that area, so they were only 15 minutes apart. Went and did that, came home, 6-something right now. And now I'm doing this, and after I do this, I'm going to go back to Ann Arbor and get another load of stuff. That's because it's all in storage over there. So that is the fun of all of this. No writing today. Haven't had time. I didn't have time to write much of anything yesterday. As I got a couch and got it. Could only fit. It's modular. I can only fit one half in my car. The other half was going to be too big to fit in my Durango murder bus, if you remember back to when I got it. And then I had to go rent a truck and go get that. So it's just been like on the road again over and over. I'm going to need an oil change after all of this because I'm sure that I'll have put on 5,000 miles. And I'm not really very well awake here. So, anyhow, so the defense, let's get to the defense. Hopefully I'm sure they have the box score there. Maybe they don't. I hope they do. They do. So we saw several people on defense, look really good. Chris Jenkins was only in kind of for a minute and he was very disruptive. And that was that. And that was like, cool, awesome. We're good. The good news is Josiah Stewart really showed out. He looked really, really good. He had 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and one of those being a sack. So that's solid. Rayshawn Benny for the Mays team had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, 6 tackles. So right now it can, and it kind of feels like defensive line is what they're kind of telling us it is. I mean, Kenneth Grant only had three assisted tackles. Cam Good had 4 tackles, 2 and 2. When you look at it that way, Miles Pollard had an interception. That's defensive backs. I don't know why I decided to just tangent there. Because I was thinking of Micah Pollard, and I just looked up Pollard. I knew that he had an interception, but nonetheless, it happened right in front of me. Didn't get a good shot of it. Just his back was to me. Micah Pollard, however, had 6 tackles. The linebacker play, I thought. I mean, obviously there was a lot of running, but Ernest Hausman again looked like the real deal. That's great news. I forgot to mention Derek Moore, who had 7 tackles, 6 solo, 2 tackles for loss. That's what you want to see out of that defensive front. Want to see more out of Keyshawn Bennett. Jalen Harrell had a 1 tackle. It was a tackle for loss. He wasn't in that much. Good show, right? Want to mention the defensive back real quick. Mike Sainer still in for a second. Like, it felt like a second. I mean, he was in for like the first half, but like he wasn't in a lot. Made big plays and then out. Second half, he's in street clothes. Well, I don't want to say street clothes, but he's got a big jacket on and he's hanging out on the sideline down by the photographers. Linebackers looked really good. Jimmy Roller had a giant play with a fumble return. Looked like an absolute beast. Ernest Hausman, like I said, 8 tackles, a tackle for loss, forced fumble. Jaden Hood led the blue team with 7 tackles. He's the name that I've just kind of been waiting for, sitting here, waiting in the wings for him to do something. So that is solid. That's what you were hoping for. Exactly those types of players. Defensive back, Zeke Berry looked great. There were a lot of times when he just looked flat out great. Cody Jones got burnt a little bit. That's disappointing. Miles Pollard had the interception. Jaden McBurrows didn't really seem particularly existent. He did have a tackle for loss. But Jair Hill, he had some moments. Some freshman moments, kind of like what Keon Sabb looked like last year, but I thought he mostly looked good. He definitely looks like he needs to bulk up. He is very, very small. Very spindly at the moment. It's good to see Nikhai Hill-Green back out there. Keon Sabb made some plays. I feel like he's kind of, as Don Brown used to say, lost in the soup a little bit. So I'm looking forward to him maybe figuring some things out a little bit. Quentin Johnson wasn't in that long, but he got an interception, had the first one of the game, which is, again, good for the safety rotation. So that kind of covers the bulk of the defense, I think, as I see it. RJ Moten had seven tackles. I don't see Makari Page on here, so he must not have registered anything, and I didn't really notice him out there. So I think the thing is there still were a lot of guys that weren't out there playing, and that's on both sides, right? Like I mentioned, some of the guys that weren't suited up. Will Johnson was in street clothes. Miles Hinton on the offensive side was in street clothes. Drake Nugent must have been. I didn't see him or get any pictures of him. So I mean, there were guys, a lot of guys on both sides in street clothes. It felt like really not a lot of the team was really playing, which is fine. But I thought defensively, they just, for the most part, looked really good. Yes, the offense broke open some big runs, and there were a couple big passing plays. That's to be expected. But it felt like the defense was ahead of the offense. But it wasn't by like a wide margin. The offense felt really pedestrian to start out, and then kind of got rolling. And I mean, granted, it was a 22-21 game, so it wasn't like it was high flying. Again, they're not going to show you, they're not out there trying to make it like this 43-40 game. They're not trying to show you the fireworks. They're trying to figure their own things out, right? But I thought the defense, again, the no-star defense, and this is with guys that are kind of working their way into that too deep. Amarian Walker, we didn't talk about him. It was okay, right? It wasn't like game-breaking. I was down on the sideline by where Steve Clinkscale was a lot, and he was screaming at him a lot. Can't repeat any of it on the air. But Amarian Walker, I thought he was okay, but I think it's clear he's going to be that guy. But I felt way more, I think, emboldened by seeing some of these other guys making plays, by being able to see Miles Pollard able to come down with an interception, by being able to see Mike Sainristil go out there and do what he was able to do in a very short order. I think safety looks really good. Linebacker looks really good. Defensive line looks really, really, really good. So I think it kind of goes the way that we kind of expected. If I was to power rank them, the entirety of the defensive front, then the safeties. Again, we didn't see Rod Moore. He was in street clothes. Then the safeties. Then the linebackers. And then the corners. But the corners did a great job for the most part. I mean, how much passing was there really? 247 on one side, 104 on the other. And a lot of that came late. Davis Warren with 163 yards. But 3 interceptions. Defensive backs, maybe they're climbing ahead, but I thought the linebackers looked too good to kind of drop. So I think things kind of just went well, right? I think things went as you would hope. No big injuries. Couple guys looked a little lost and everything. Guess what? There's lots of time to get that worked out. All right, let's talk about J.J. McCarthy here in a moment, and just kind of overall thoughts, more so than I just kind of gave, in just a moment. All right, I didn't talk about J.J. McCarthy, and I think that's the mistake, of course. It's funny looking at his stat line, and I knew it was a little bit better than I thought, but I was joking on the sidelines about, and I know Patrick Barron was tweeting like Jack Tuttle season and stuff like that, because the first couple passes were errant from JJ, wasn't looking very good. And I don't know if they're 100% errant. We didn't have scoreboard, so I couldn't rewatch plays. I could only go off what I saw through a lens, and then that was it. And I haven't rewatched the spring game yet because I haven't had a chance to. But the first couple passes didn't go through, and then he got hot, and everything looked fine. Didn't look like amazing or anything. It looked fine. But he got more accurate. I mean, 70%. Didn't feel like 70%. That's the crazy thing. If I didn't know that he completed like his last 6 passes, I would have sat there and said, oh, he was like a 50% passer. This is like Wilton Spate in 2017. Now, certainly people are going to be more excited about Davis Warren going 8 for 13, and people are going to be excited about Alex Orji, who made a couple plays both with his legs and his arm. Didn't go crazy, but I mean, had a 41-yard pass, which I didn't even get to see. I believe that was one to Frederick Moore. I was walking down the sideline when that happened, completely obscured. But I would just say that Michigan's in good hands. I know it didn't look like this amazing national championship winning team, and that's fine. I know it probably that's what you want to see. That's not what this is for. This is for the coaches to figure out some things with the players they got, and as you can see, mostly with the backups. I thought the center play was fine, right? Like, I thought Greg Crippen, Raheem Anderson looked good. You know, Carson Barnhart looked good. Trevor Keegan looked good. I don't think that there was anything really to sit there and say, well, that's a big problem. Passing and turning the ball over, yeah, maybe that was a problem. Some gambles, but again, this isn't a game that really counted. It's fine if guys are taking gambles, even though it seemed like a lot of those times I sat there and wondered, are they just getting confused by seeing a winged helmet, right? Because the one that got called back, the JJ throw to Makari Page in the end zone, I didn't see anywhere else he was trying to go. Now, on the other end, going towards Darius Clemens when Miles Pollard picked it off, okay, that was an underthrow. So, yes, there was some bad, but it's not that big of a deal. So, I all in all, I think we saw what we needed to see, and we saw some players that needed to step up. Really encouraged by Matthew Hibner, really encouraged by A.J. Barner. Colston Loveland's still going to grow into his thing. JJ didn't really have to do much, and I will say he was kind of hiding at the pep rally. He was there. If you went to the pep rally and we're like, well, where is JJ? He was there. He was just in the back. Came in late, said a couple hot hellos, went and sat down in the seats, and then they were like, pep rally done, and he was out. Certainly there are some players that I wanted to see step up that still haven't. Christian Dixon still hasn't. I really wanted to see more from Samaj Morgan. But I am really excited about that running back competition. It'll be so exciting when Donovan and Blake come back. And then you've got a couple guys, like I would say that number 3 battle is probably going to be between Khalil Mullings and Benjamin Hall. I want to remind you, Benjamin Hall ranked higher than Hassan Haskins was. Those legs, if you watched, you saw exactly what I was saying. And I think that bodes well for Michigan. And they'll get all the other stuff figured out in fall camp. And the schedule is very conducive yet again for them to be able to do kind of what they want to do. All right, that's going to do it for us today. I am going to continue to exhaust myself. Very much looking forward to next week when hopefully we're doing every episode in the new home and having internet. That's all going to be dependent on the internet. Otherwise, I might have to keep everything set up here and then come here, do the podcast, go home. But at least on Thursday, regardless if I have the internet, I'm going to do the episode there. And that will likely be a mailbag. And then if I have to upload it from here, then that's what we'll do. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will be back on Tuesday. Peace.